Hey guys, welcome to this stream. I'm Nick Schmidt, community developer for Watch Dogs. I'll introduce you to our guest, and then we'll get the gameplay into some questions if you have questions for our guest. You want to introduce yourselves to?
My name is Olivier, Girard, and I am the audio director.
You have your name underneath.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a blatant lie. My name is Colin, and I'm the animation director. He's Olivier.
Yes, and I'm the audio director on Watch Dogs.
And so what are you guys doing now?
We are playing the game, waiting for people to join us or invite us in their game so we can play co-op with them.
Did you go to Chicago to get any idea of the sounds of the city?
Oh, you bet. We went several times, actually. We went with the first, I'd say, scouting party that went to Chicago maybe 4 years ago. And we did record. We spent days recording ambiances in all different areas of the city. Nice areas, bad areas, the river. We recorded a lot of stuff. And as we went back to Chicago to record a lot of the voices we use in the game for the civilians, we also continued to record a lot of ambiances to be sure we captured the essence of the city and how it sounds. We rode the L train for a long time just to be sure we could get it right in the game, and all those details to try to be as close to the real deal as possible. And we did enjoy our stay in Chicago. It was a beautiful city. Very nice, and it was a great opportunity for Watch Dogs to be able to go there.
It's there was a lot of the voice actors. The voice actors were all from there, right?
Yeah, the voice actors.
Most of them were.
The civilians in the city are all from Chicago,
and all the NPCs as well, right? The enemies, the gang guys.
Exactly, they're all authentic Chicago people. It was really important for us.
They sounded really good. It's. Yeah, you telling me some of the guys were actually in a gang at some point.
Oh, it gets really good. One of our actors, and I forget his name right now, but he actually was the full package. He used to be a gangbanger who turned out to become a police officer in the end. Oh, so wow. He had the whole spectrum. He could help us out to cover both sides of the lingo because. Where we're here in Montreal, we're trying to, make up lines, or at least the writers are making lines for these guys. But in the end, it turns out that when you get there, we can actually ask the guys, and how would you call this? How would you describe a car? I get in the car, and some of the guys would be like, oh, you'd say get in the whip, or I gotta get a whip, and I'm like, what? We have no idea what they're talking about, but we use that to make it feel more authentic. And as for the police officers, we actually got down. We got the opportunity to sit down with a few police officers so they could tell us how they would talk on the radio, what they would say in any given situation. And we got to talk with the real Chicago guys so we could use close enough codes for what was going on.
They're not the real codes like you.
You know what? That's a good question for the writers. I think we ended up using some of the real ones, but I can't really say. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was another thing we used to have here on the floor. I remember one of the writers had the crime classification, not crime classification, the gang classification manual.
Oh,
do you ever see that?
No.
It's actually a book that the Chicago PD puts out that has every known gang member in Chicago with their mugshot and all their background. Yeah, it's a book. I don't know if you can buy it on Amazon or something like that, but it's a published book. It's not like you have to be a police officer to get it or anything like that.
So I have another question about music again. The Mining Miner wants to know, was there any music that inspired the Watch Dogs soundtrack? And if so, what was it? So I'm guessing maybe it's music that didn't make it in the soundtrack, or the music that inspired the score?
Well, it depends. If we're talking about the score, what influenced us? Very good question. There was a lot of influence, and as Watch Dogs emerged, or as Watch Dogs formed itself over the years, we kind of followed what was happening with the creative direction and all the other departments. So the sound and the flavor we ended up focusing on, I wouldn't say we got inspired by something, but we really did like Brian Reitzel's work, and I would say that's what inspired us. So we didn't really say, Brian, here, do this type of music, because we would just approach him and say, we really like what you're doing, can you do that for us? And we explained to him what Watch Dogs was, what the typical flavor, what the tone of the game was, and that's how we managed to get that flavor in the game.
My co-op partner's decided he's going to start shooting people here. But they haven't gone full auto yet, so he's we lost the remain undetected. I remember way back, like, we always liked Michael Mann movies, and I remember there was something about that had a similar flavor to some of the soundtracks that.
It did come up often as references, and we did enjoy that. And I would need to speak more closely with Pavel and Dave, who are the guys on the team who made a bunch of the music as well. A lot of the gameplay music you actually end up hearing in the game was composed by our two friends on the team here. Who did a lot of work. Our composer worked a lot for the overall ambience of the game and most of a lot of the cinematics as well. We would have to ask them because I think they poured a lot of their own influences in there. So it'd be hard for me to say exactly what they like, but they're really well versed and they have a lot of different sources.
It's something I remember like years and years ago, back when we were doing like mood boards for Nexus before we became Watch Dogs. That was one of the things that we looked at. Oh, I got a headshot from across the square.
Quick question from Abby Gamer. How much do mocap help for animation, and do you use daily object sounds and audio, like for Foley?
Okay, so how does mocap is like essential for us to be able to get a realistic look these days. It's expensive to do, but you get this really. It looks like a real person when you capture it. It's much easier to do that than it is to find animators. Animators would take days to be able to come up with animations that look the same level of realism. So yeah, it's a big plus for us, and it's pretty much how we do everything at Ubisoft now. That said, there's a lot of animators that on the team that then work on the animation afterwards because we have to modify it and get it to fit better with the gameplay mechanics. And sometimes we want to push it and jazz it up a bit too. There's a lot of things that a mocap actor can't do fast enough or are too dangerous to do. So we do a lot of retouch on the animation as well too. But there's a heck of a lot of animation in Watch Dogs.
And having put a lot of the Foley on those animations, I can attest to that. There's so much, Colin, just so much.
Yeah, we didn't really do Foley off the set with everyday objects, but I do remember a lot of times, even for stuff in the Living City, recording audio on the sessions too. So for secondary characters as well too, not even for the cinematics. The cinematics, of course, are all recorded on set. What's the weirdest thing you use to make a sound?
In Watch Dogs?
Those sound guys you always use up. They always like, well, this is part of a cheetah and part of a bear and part of a blender.
I know. See, we have we on the team. Dave, who's also one of the composers, is also our sound artist, and he's I'd say in-house wizard as well. A weird guy in terms of where he likes to pick up sounds, and I would say he does a lot of field recording on his own, and sometimes he'll come back and say, oh, I've got this weird light in my building, so I've put this piezo mic on it, and I got these weird sounds. Can you listen to them? And then he processes them through his modular synth, and then it becomes something completely different. So that's something we used. What else did we use? That was I guess we need to ask the Foley guys, because a lot of the Foley we actually not outsourced outside, but we got a studio inside Ubisoft that can handle a bulk of these things that we need to do, because sometimes we'll need to focus on let's say missions and all that, and we'll let the Foley studio handle enemies walking around, gun manipulations and all that. But I know they do use a lot of odd objects upstairs. They'll mocap someone handling an AK-47, and you realize it's just basically a wrench and a box of nails or something like that. So it's they use their imagination, but they also get pretty good at knowing how something should sound, because oftentimes you want to get this tactile feeling from the interactions you do with the stuff in the game, which isn't necessarily 100% realistic, because sometimes it won't feel as heavy, it won't feel as interesting as it would in the game. So sometimes we end up cheating a lot of stuff as well, just to make them give them a bit more flair, a bit more impact.
Yeah, as I'm sitting here using a grenade launcher. Is there anything special about the way the grenade launcher was recorded?
Well, see, the good thing about having done sound for video games at UB for 10 years is that I've amassed a very vast library of weapons.
Yeah.
So coming out of a few Splinter Cells and Rainbow Six and all that, I had my pick of a few grenade launchers that I liked, and then we could use a lot of those sources and reprocess them to make them unique to our game. And that's what I can tell you about these weapons. And we got our friend Martin Lemieux to help us out as well with the rest of the weapons.
Yeah.
So they're all unique to Watch Dogs, that's for sure. But we had so much reference in the libraries.
This guy's gonna blow up. Oh, yeah.
I have a question here, guys, from Fella Hearts, who wants to know what was the biggest hurdle that you both had to overcome making the game?
Colin.
Sorry, that's one of my favorite things to do. It was something, by the way, it's something we added. Remember when Watch Dogs got delayed? Does anybody still remember that?
Yes.
I mean, I know we remember it, but it was a kind of a big deal at one point. One of the things that we actually added in at the end was this ability to hack the dudes when they had IEDs on them.
Yeah, I remember testing that for the first time and thinking.
Oh, it was hilarious to mocap that as well too. We were trying to explain to the actor what was happening, and I'm not entirely sure he actually understood. And it's neat too. One of the neat things about it is I didn't actually do it, but if you look at them with the profiler, you can kind of get an idea if they're good enough to if they're calm enough to be able to survive.
Speaking of hurdles, thinking about that.
What was it? Sorry, what was the question?
The question was, what the biggest hurdle you came across working on a game like this? For us, time is always a good one.
Yeah.
Because eventually those games, I don't think who said that. I believe it's George Lucas who said movies never get done; they escape.
Yeah.
And I think to a certain extent, it's true with what we're doing as well. I mean, eventually, we get locked out of the data, and they said that's it, the game is done, and you have to live with what we've created. We're pretty proud and happy with what we put out, but we just wanted to put so much more in there, or there's just so many other things we wanted to accomplish before it was done.
Oh,
I guess that's always cool, because then we have other stuff that we can put in whatever the next game is.
Yeah.
So that was one of the hurdles. The other one for us probably was how do we manage the music? How do we make sure all the music systems interact with each other well? Because the player's always able to use this PDA and start the licensed music.
Yeah.
And then you get in a mission and there's a cinematic, and then you're walking down the street and this other speaker is playing music. So it's always to try to find out what is the player wanting to hear at this specific moment and making sure that's what he hears. That was a tough challenge for us.
Yeah, there's with the way that the way that you have to sort of process all these different things, and it's dynamic too, right? Like I remember you saying over and over again, well like, this is going on and this is going on, this is going on, and then somebody would say, hey, why don't I hear this particular sound here too? And the audio, there's so many things. It's not like a movie where you can control it.
It looks like I don't know if we're looking at what I'm doing. I really am failing this mission over and over again, and that's because I'm not paying attention.
No, they're watching me nuke stuff.
I already sent in the chat that you're having trouble playing and talking at the same time.
All right, thank you, Nick.
All right, we got all the fixes. Okay, so somebody beat you. Open the challenges app. What does that tell me? Somebody beat me on the last mission. All right, suffocals. That sounds like dirty when I say it out loud. All right, suffocals, I'm going to leave you, and we're going to see if we can find somebody else to play with. So I'm going back into free roam if somebody wants to find me and invite me to play.
While we're showing how many times have you restarted that mission?
See, that's how little I'm paying attention. I don't know.
Okay, you play and pay attention, and while I'm waiting for somebody to join. So for me, the hardest thing is...
We have a very, very good question here.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was going to answer the hardest thing.
Max Schway.
I just think of the hardest thing.
This one's going to be super short.
Oh, okay.
Are beards mandatory in the industry?
But we all came... There a lot of beards arrived back after summer.
All right.
But did you miss Mateus's beard?
Oh,
Mateus is a beard, man. It's like a Peter Griffin beard with birds in it.
It's a beehive. People got lost in there.
Oh man, for sure. And it appeared in like a week, I think.
I think he stopped shaving when we were in the last stretch of shipping the game. Me, it was just pure laziness during the summer. I stopped shaving, and at some point, my wife said, "You know what? This looks good on you." I was like, "Really? Fine."
So my wife almost said the same thing. She said, "Don't shave your beard. You look bad without it."
Did you go to what's your biggest hurdle?
Oh yeah, the biggest hurdle. Well, I think one of the things that people don't, one of the things that a lot of people who aren't developing games don't realize is that how interconnected everything is. everything that you do affects another department and another group of people, and so probably one of the biggest hurdles is working with a team that's as big as the Watch Dogs team is, because to create all this world, all this city, all the create all of this from scratch, because this is all created from scratch, right? It's not recycled from other games. It's not a mod of another game or anything that's built from scratch, and it's super complex to put all that together. Whoa! Some dude just mugged another guy.
Do something about it.
I'm doing something. I'm going to T-bone him. And by T-bone, I mean that.
Well done.
But I would say though it does get easier as we go on, and we have working with the same developers now. Some of these guys have worked with for 5 years, and it's good to have this relationship. It's big teams. The Ubisoft has these massive teams, and it's what's required to build the game as big as Watch Dogs, and that's why there aren't that many super big games anymore. It takes a lot to do it.
Cool. Maybe a question for Olivier. Do the voice actors influence the mannerism of the character?
So cinematics, or are we talking about cinematics?
I'll let Colin answer that one, because I would say for the civilians, most of the civilians in the game, I would say it's less likely, because we're just recording them in bulk so much. But I think for the main actors, the main characters in the game, I think that's totally true. Colin can tell us a bit more.
For the main actors in the game, who the actor is, the kind of character he plays, has a huge amount of influence about how the character develops. So take like Jordy, for example. Jordy has these very particular mannerisms, and it's a derivative of who Aaron Douglas, the actor, is. He doesn't always play his TV roles like that, but in real life he's quite a bit more like Jordy than the roles he typically plays. So much so that it's kind of spooky when you have lunch with him, because it's like having lunch with Jordy, but it doesn't look like Jordy.
You know what? I would go as far
and John
as
Tench is exactly T-Bone.
Yeah.
I think Jordy is a diluted version of actually Aaron Douglas.
I think so. I think it's the character he always dreamed of being, but nobody ever cast him for that because he's the baby face.
Maybe, I don't know, but it was just such a pleasure getting Jordy in the game and getting that performance.
Yeah, and it even influences a lot the script too. I mean, we had an idea for Jordy when we started, and Aaron came in and did something spectacular. It was just different, and it was like, okay, that works. Let's totally go with that. And John Tench, who plays T-Bone, is like, he even looks like T-Bone. I'm pretty sure that's his actual jacket. And he's a super nice guy. So nice. And it was just a pleasure working with him. And you can see it if anybody's playing the Bad Blood DLC. The story is one of the things that we like so much about it is the story. There's just so much good chemistry between Tobias and T-Bone, and a big part of that comes back that's who John is. He's a great actor, and the two guys really clicked together, and they had a great script, and a lot of people like it. I really enjoyed it.
How do you guys choose what music is going in the game and what doesn't go in the game?
Very good question. For Watch Dogs 1, it was something I kind of was really looking forward to, was being able to work on a game that has so much licensed music. So basically, it came down to making a playlist that we liked, first of all, and that on that front, I think it really worked out. I'm really happy with the playlist we managed to get in. So that was the first thing. Do I like this song or not? So yes, no, and that was my first question. Then it was, is this song a good song? Is this a song that people will like? And then we wanted to be sure that we had a good balance between genres as well. And of course, eventually you come down to the finances of it, and just how much music you can buy and how much music you can get. There's also some licensing issues. Obviously, you need to contact a bunch of people to be able to get their music in the game. And I remember a funny story. There was this one song we liked, and for Watch Dogs, something that we never really put a lot of emphasis on is for our playlist. we really pushed hard a Chicago angle on it because we really wanted to be sure that we represented the Chicago music scene very strongly, because there's so much music from there and it's so diverse and there's so many good bands coming from Chicago. We want to be sure that we licensed music from Chicago, and half as a lark, half as something as an homage to a character. We wanted to get a Mr. T song in the game that we really liked, because he's put out, I think, 1 or 2 records. Of course, it was a very educational song. It wasn't like anything pop, but we really wanted to get in the game, and eventually we just couldn't. Not because we couldn't afford it or anything. It's just because somebody who was owning a part of the rights to that music wasn't available. He was just not reachable by any means at all.
Well, it's something you mentioned earlier before we were going online. I was asking you about that, and you said that a lot of music is owned by more than one person. Maybe people don't know about that.
Well, it's down to the nitty gritty of the licensing, but a lot of
like
music,
songs are owned. This guy, you said some guy might own 10% of a song, so we've got to get everybody to say yes.
Exactly, and oftentimes as well, some people, some of the songs we would like to get, we can't get because people actually don't want to license their music, and they say, well, for example, they might object to the type of video games we're making, so they might not have an issue with licensing it for a football game, but for a more violent, mature teen game, they're not on board.
Well, but people have a lot of that question. I get asked a lot about licensing too, about vehicles, for example, and without naming a specific vehicle manufacturer, one of the manufacturers came back and said, "Yeah, the cars are great, but that car can never kill a person in the game. You have to guarantee that can never happen." And we're like, we can't make a game where that can happen. So then now we can't do that with those cars, for example. Guns are a different story. You have different rules for guns, for example. Some guns can be used by the hero. Some guns can be used on the cover art and the box art. Some guns can only be used by
good guys.
By only the good guys, and some guns can be used by good guys and bad guys.
Wow.
And some guns nobody cares, like AK-47s. Nobody cares.